Hey Gil, whatever happened to the WTA saying they wouldn't hold any tournaments in China until the Peng Shuai situation was sorted out? Really, this question is more of a prompt to bring her back into recognition for a moment. Again, I had forgotten about her situation until Andy Roddick and John Wertheim talked about her briefly in the latest episode of their podcast. Yeah, definitely something that's worthy of bringing up again, considering there are a lot of new tennis fans. It's something that I think new tennis fans should Google, they should catch up on and know about. And it was a harrowing situation at the time. And I don't think it came to any resolution that can really, that you can really feel super good about. I mean, obviously we saw that Peng Shuai was alive and there were some very manicured, uncomfortable, artificial, restrictive public appearances that Peng Shuai has made since. So, barely satisfactory. And the WTA's demands at the time were not met. Right? Steve Simon said, we're not going to do business in China until all of these things happen. One of those things was a transparent investigation into Peng Shuai's allegations, which was at the time clearly an unrealistic demand, meaning it was never going to happen. And it didn't. But the WTA didn't hold firm in what they said. On one hand, you want to give the WTA at least some credit for saying what they said and, at least in theory, making the stand that they made. However, those years that they did not go to China, they couldn't have gone to China, even if they wanted to. The ATP didn't go to China, even though the ATP had every intention to. And that is because there were COVID restrictions. So as soon as the COVID restrictions lifted, the WTA went back to China. Was it a phony moral stand the entire time? Was it an empty threat? Fact is, we'll never know. But COVID left the WTA in pretty dire financial straits. So dire that they went to a private equity firm and sold, I believe, 20% of the stake in the WTA went to private equity in exchange for an influx of cash. You are therefore, once you get another stakeholder involved, especially when it's a private equity firm, that changes a lot about the business. There are certain pressures that come with that. And I guess it was difficult for an organization that was not in good financial health to sacrifice as much profit as they would be sacrificing by actually fully pulling out of China for good. So that's the answer to the question, right? The answer to the question is money talked, as it usually does. And in this case, you had an organization in the WTA who potentially couldn't afford to make the moral stand that they attempted to make. So at the very least, you could cut them more slack than most large corporations in the world who have plenty to spare. Because there's an argument to be made when you look at the WTA's financials that there actually isn't that much to spare. However, sad and tragic how it all played out and how it all went down. No doubt about that.